Yes, there is always a lot to say about wolves in Oregon. And similar to a lot of species, it's native to this state. It was here for many, many, many years, centuries even, but due to a very specific and targeted campaign to basically exterminate the species, there were, almost the entire 19th into 20th centuries, there were no wolves across Oregon or across the West. In fact, we did, as humans, such a great job of pushing this species to the brink of extinction that only small pockets of wolves remained in northern Minnesota and northern Michigan for the longest time in the contiguous US. And so in the last couple decades since wolves were reintroduced in Yellowstone in the 90s and then in central Idaho also in the 90s, we've now seen wolves start to disperse and repopulate their historic range. And it's, despite so many things that, and I can get into all the nuance of wolf management at the state level and, still attacks that we're seeing on wolves, both politically and literally on the ground, the story of wolf recovery is, I think, one of hope to say that we can undo something that we did that was incredibly harmful to our ecosystem. So I want to end on that, but I also know that, people want to know what's going on with wolves in the state, and, they're making their slow progress toward recovery. And so the last annual count that the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife did just last year put the wolf population at about 173 wolves in the state, which is great. It's moving in the right direction. From Oregon Wild's perspective, that's a slower rate of recovery than even the agency's own scientists predicted. And unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with human-caused fatality for wolves. I believe it was 9 human-caused fatalities last year, and 5 of them were from poaching. And then a few more were actually caused by wolves being hit by vehicles trying to cross roads. So the human impact on wolf recovery is still really significant. And there's still a lot of vitriol, there's still a lot of hatred for this species. So, the education, the outreach, having people understand that this isn't a villainous species that's out to get your children, and it actually plays a really important role in the ecosystem. But there's also ways that we can, deter conflict or, reduce conflict and deter wolves from predating on livestock. So I think all of those things in combination are possible in Oregon. For those who have seen, Idaho recently passed legislation that allows the state, wildlife managers, the public, hired guns, whomever, to kill up to 90% of the state's wolf population. That is extremely troubling. And this has to do with the fact that wolves have been federally removed from the federal endangered species list. And so when that happens, it turns all management decisions over to the states. And while that might sound good in theory, this is kind of some of the things we can expect to see. Wisconsin mandated a wolf hunt this year where they killed way above the quota that they had even, allotted for hunters to kill wolves. Montana is also trying to push a bill that would kill 80% of their wolf population. So we're starting to see really, and quite drastically, the ripple effects of wolves being removed from the federal endangered species list. And so groups like Oregon Wild, there's so many national groups that have litigation to try to push back and say we need to relist this species, and also just, educate people about why it was premature to remove them from the endangered species list. So the main thing people can do to support wolf recovery in Oregon and across the country right now is to contact the Biden administration, to contact the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and ask them to start the process to relist wolves, both for the most recent Trump administration decision, but also for the northern Rocky Mountain distinct population. So there were sort of 2 classes of wolves that were delisted at separate times, and we want the administration to relist all gray wolves across the country. So making sure that if you're reaching out to the Biden administration, you say that you want gray wolves relisted across the country for all population segments. So if you're interested in how to take action and where you can send a letter to the Biden administration, we do have on our blog section, we have a Restore Protections for Wolves Take Action page. So you can go on Oregon Wild's website and fill that out and send it off to the administration.